The leftist ideology is weakness disguised as compassion. They go soft on crime, defund the police, cashless bail release, and catch and release for repeat offenders. The result? Violent criminals continue to harm the public. Our streets turn into war zones. Families live in fear.
The dogs bark, the floor still creaks, the seasons change, but I won't leave.
Are we still doing Black Lives Matter? No, election's over. Turns out it was a scam and they stole all the money.
The trees die, the land still free, the phone don't ring and I can't sleep.
You still doing the abortion protests? No, the election's over. Turns out nobody wanted to fuck us.
The dogs bark, the floor still creaks, the seasons change, but I won't leave.
We still doing the trans rights thing? No, the elections are coming up. Turns out people don't like child genital mutilation.
The trees die, the land still free, the phone don't ring and I can't sleep.
Should I buy another Palestine flag? No, the election's over and Trump brought peace to the Middle East. Fuck. You still down to do ICE protests? Fuck yeah, we are.
The dogs bark, the floor still creaks, the seasons change.
Guys, we need to stop pretending that it's the ICE arrests that are causing these problems. Because ICE has arrested more people in Florida, Texas, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, even New York. And in those states, there hasn't been violence, there hasn't been injuries, there hasn't been shootings. Because when we see ICE doing their legally obligated duty, we go, thanks. Hey, good job. And we don't go out in the street and fight them. We don't attack federal agents for doing their job. We don't organize signal groups dedicated to fighting the federal government. Like, guys, it's not the ICE arrests. Because if it was about ICE being Gestapo, then there'd be problems in Texas and Arizona, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, New York. No, ICE doing their job isn't the problem. It's the American left thinking they have a right to fight a federal agency. That's the problem.
Watch this.
White supremacy.
White supremacism.
White supremacist.
Fascism. Fascist.
Fascist.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Climate change.
These aren't just words, they are weapons, emotional triggers, meant to discredit and divide. When you hear these buzzwords, you're not supposed to think, you're supposed to feel anger, fear, disgust. That's what these words are designed to trigger, because once a word becomes a trigger, emotion outruns reason, and rationality doesn't even get to speak. If a single word can control your emotions, you're not informed, you're programmed, and if someone can program your reaction, they already control your mind.
Homie explains why ICE is pushing up on the land, these terror cell organizations.
Administration, 40,000 ISIS and Al Qaeda workers and soldiers infiltrated the border. We just seen Afghani shoot National Guard. In Chicago, they found an apartment filled with C4 explosives, fire department uniforms, and police officer uniforms. This ain't about the guys hanging outside the Home Depot and the 7-Eleven. Our sovereignty is under attack because the Islamic State has been named as a terror organization. That's going to trigger attacks. In the Quran, it says, kill the non-believers. We have 40,000 Somalis who was using the unemployment system to send money back to Al-Shabaab, the same group. I'm just out there negotiating the freedom of children. That's what's going on in our country. So people talking about defund the police and they talking about, oh, ICE is all this. Man, bro, in our communities, you have terror cells operating, point blank period. 40,000 Chinese nationals crossed the border. Then what do they find? They find a sim farm in New York where they had the infrastructure to take out 200 million phone lines. That's what's going on. Our national security has been...
Right over there is where Alex Peretti got shot. And then on this same block.
What is wrong with this country? Last night in Minneapolis, the local police was told to stand down as anti-ICE rioters went and destroyed a hotel because they thought that Border Patrol agents were there. Not only did these people destroy the hotel lobby and threaten and intimidate the staff, they also went to the parking lot and vandalized any car that they assumed belonged to an agent. That's like burning down a restaurant because you don't like someone sitting inside eating food. Keep in mind, there wasn't confirmation that the ICE agents were staying at that specific hotel. They just heard that they were and thought, let's destroy the building, with zero regard for anybody else who could have been inside that hotel. On top of that, leftists are emailing hotel staff, telling them that they've planted explosives in the building and saying that everyone needs to be evacuated before it's too late. These are not sane individuals. These are not people who will listen to reason. These are violent, dangerous people who don't care about logic and reason. And they're actively being enabled by the Democrat leadership in Minnesota and all around the country. At what point can we objectively look at this and go, yeah, Insurrection Act?
For all the Black Americans saying ICE isn't our problem, you do realize that they're kidnapping Black Americans too.
White liberal racism is worse than getting called the hard R every single day of my life. Because what do you mean that because I'm Black, I'm supposed to empathize with literal criminals rather than caring about our country being safe? The caucasity that you have to sit here and act like you're more American than me. ICE is literally not the concern of Black people. Illegals breaking into our country, stealing our resources, violating our women, and trafficking our children, all while refusing to assimilate to the country that they broke into. That is the concern of Black people. That is the concern of all sane Americans. So I'm going to sit here and continue to support ICE, and you're going to sit there and continue wrestling with this bizarre hatred that you have towards your own ancestors.
You ever marry someone that has different political beliefs than you?
I would never marry a guy that's liberal.
Why not?
Because he's gonna raise my son to be a fat.
I just died on your arms tonight.
And Minnesota is important because if you guys didn't know, just 9 counties across the entire country account for roughly 2/3 of all violent confrontations with ICE. You might be asking, what are those counties? Well, it's Newark, New York City, Chicago, Minneapolis, Denver, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle. And together, those 9 non-cooperating jurisdictions have seen 110 violent confrontations with ICE. Every other county in America, which is over 3,000 of them, have seen just 64 violent confrontations total. So what this means, mathematically speaking, is that a county in one of these top 9 jurisdictions is nearly 600 times more likely to experience a violent confrontation with ICE than any other of the 3,000 plus counties. Are we supposed to believe that is a coincidence, or are we supposed to observe a pattern here? Let's talk about who governs these places, which all function really as sanctuary cities. Chicago is run by Brandon Johnson, Los Angeles is run by Karen Bass, Minneapolis is run by Jacob Frey, New York is run by Zohran Mamdani, Portland by Keith Wilson, San Francisco by Daniel Lurie, Katie Wilson runs Seattle, Ross Baraka runs Newark, and Denver is run by Mike Johnston. Now, every single one of these cities is governed by politicians who take a staunchly adversarial posture towards ICE, publicly framing federal immigration enforcement as illegitimate, immoral, or an enemy force. That is important. Violent confrontations with ICE are rare in states and cities where local officials actually cooperate with federal law enforcement. That is a fact. It is observable. You can go look. ICE arrests more people in Texas, Florida, Virginia, Georgia, so many other states than it does in Minnesota by a wide margin. So the obvious question is, why aren't people being shot in those states? And spare me the idiocy that ICE agents are just roaming around looking to kill civilians or seeking violence. That claim collapses instantly when you look at where violence isn't happening. What is happening is this. In these 9 jurisdictions, political leaders implicitly and explicitly label ICE as the enemy. They encourage resistance, and they create an environment where people believe they are moral heroes for interfering with federal agents doing federal work that was democratically voted for in large numbers. Now, I want to be clear, because nuance is always an important thing to me. This does not mean that ICE is perfect. It does not mean that every use of force is justified. I've already said publicly that I do not believe the shooting of Alex Preddy was a good shooting. But what is stupid, and even worse, dangerous, is to pretend that when people insert themselves into volatile law enforcement operations, nothing bad could ever happen, that we shouldn't expect it to happen, and that responsibility always lies, and only lies, with the officers. The officer alone. And to all of the people who are going to make excuses, don't care. You know why? Because this isn't happening everywhere. It's happening in very specific places under very specific leadership with very predictable results.
Act of vandalism happened yesterday in Washington, D.C. They are like leeches, like parasites. They live off government subsidies. They generally don't work. They go from protest to protest, receiving money from the NGOs that sponsor. All these vandals to oppose the government and destabilize the nation. They hate the United States, ignoring that the airports are open and free for them to return to their countries. But they don't. They depend on the great nation. They would starve to death if they returned to their lands because they don't know how to work, because they are lazy. Here they fight and demand because it is a free nation, because there are fundamental rights that are respected. But if they were to return to their countries, they would be like docile and silent lambs before the executioners who are imposed upon them, who threaten them, who enslave them. And they still complain about the United States because they don't have freedoms. That is why foreign flags from radical countries wave here. That is why here they burn the flag of the nation that is keeping them from starving. Call me whatever the hell you want, but disgusting rats like these don't deserve to be in the United States. They should be expelled, and all the organizations behind each of these demonstrations should be exterminated, and the sponsors should end up behind bars forever. This is the worst plague that this nation has. It's unbelievable.